Larry Holder, Clyde Verdin here with you. Saints very active at the start of free agency, even though they missed on the likes of Jimmy Graham and Muhammad Wilkerson. They certainly made up for it with numerous acquisitions. We're going to go through these pretty quickly here. Let's start with the one that Saints fans are probably most talking about, Patrick Robinson. Look, I think it's a career renaissance for him. He was able to play very well in Philadelphia, and the Saints could certainly use someone as their slot cornerback. Does P-Rob start? I don't know, but he's certainly going to be playing plenty of snaps. And me personally, I know there's a lot of angst that I've heard from Saints fans, and people can't forget his prior time here in New Orleans, but I think it's a good move. Your thoughts, Clyde?
Absolutely. You know, I think if you're Patrick Robinson, you couldn't do much better than the last thing that people remember you for is, number one, making one of the biggest plays in the NFC Championship game, and then going on to win a Super Bowl. I think for him, and specifically for the Saints, it's like you've talked about and like we've talked about on Duncan Holder, it's going to give the Saints numerous looks in the defensive secondary, which means that they're going to be able to keep offenses off balance. And I think the biggest thing for them is clearly they're looking for guys to add not only depth to the defensive secondary, but when you think about it, you got him, you got Marshawn Lattimore, Ken Crawley, Von Bell, guys like that. Clearly, for the Saints, you are going all in right now on making sure that you have a quality defense and specifically having guys to help with really keeping other offenses at bay, specifically in the NFC South.
No doubt about it. And they had linebacker Demario Davis. I know plenty of Saints fans have been asking for more speed at linebacker and to boost the position in general. And just look at the moves they made the last couple of years, drafting Alex Anzalone, A.J. Clyde, they paid him as a starter. I would assume he would still start. Manti Te'o probably becomes a backup, but Demario Davis, I would assume he becomes the middle linebacker for the Saints moving forward.
Absolutely, and if anything, it solidifies that group. And you know, talking to Josh Katzenstein, a lot of the guys, if he could probably come back in, be your Mike linebacker, and someone who can contribute right away. And after the season that he had last year with the Jets, and over the course of his career, this could be one of the steals of free agency, especially for the Saints in the way they're looking at really bringing in quality guys who are going to add and bolster the core group of guys they already have. And I mean, it's like we talked about too, you know, last year, specifically with Manti Te'o, he was able to, and Craig Robertson, guys like that were able to fill in roles in key moments and key stretches to keep this team in contention late and to get them back into the playoffs and made really, really big key runs. So when you had a guy like Demario Davis, if anything for the Saints, you're hoping that he's going to come in right away, be able to become a stalwart, and then you have another really, really good rotational basis there in linebacker.
Well, speaking of depth, they made a couple of moves for depth on the offensive side of the football. Chase Daniel is now a Chicago Bear, and the Saints have a more veteran backup quarterback, at least more veteran than Taysom Hill, now back on the roster, with Tom Savage from the Houston Texans, and then the Saints adding another familiar face, bringing back Jermon Bushrod for a one-year deal, and he's going to essentially replace Senio Kelemete.
Right. And, you know, when we were talking about, and we kind of knew that Chase Daniel was going to kind of move on and go to greener pastures, and obviously he found that in Chicago. But you bring in a guy like Tom Savage. Tom Savage is clearly, people know who he is. You know, he was with the Texans. He's gotten starts in the NFL. And the biggest thing you hope for him is that he is he's a nice lifeline for Drew Brees to feel comfortable with someone behind him. And obviously Tom Savage is going to learn from one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history. And then obviously also at the same time, bringing back Jermon Bushrod, it means that you're going to bring a guy back in on the line, veteran guy. He knows what he's doing. He's going to be able to add a lot of really, really unique skill sets for him that I think the Saints are going to want really, of course, on that offensive line to replace Senio Kelemete.
Yeah, Senio's been known to play guard and tackle, and even though you might remember Jermon Bushrod as a Pro Bowl left tackle for the Saints, last couple of years he's been a starter with Miami at guard. And this is probably his last stop, and I'm sure he's thrilled to be back here because he's got plenty of good memories here, as we've actually talked to him about on Duncan Holder during the Super Bowl week. We better be getting him back on. That's to you, Jermon. Get back on the show when you get back in town. So, all right, check out all of our coverage of all things Saints and free agency, fast-moving, mock drafts as well at NOLA.com and in our print editions of the Times-Picayune. So, for Clyde Verdin, I'm Larry Holder. Thanks for joining us.